everyone. Welcome back to Sportsbook Review's coverage of La Liga Primera. I'm your host, Martin Green. I have alongside me Matt from La Liga Lowdown, the star player of the La Liga Lowdown team, he's often described as. Great to have you here, Matt. Thank you for joining me today. Junior isn't with us because he's had a family emergency in Canada. We're hoping to have him back next week, but you've just got the dynamic duo of me and Matt this time around. Matt, are you excited to have club football back after an eventful international break?
Absolutely, yes. Thank you for that lovely introduction. It's fantastic to get La Liga back on the road. It has been, as you say, a very exciting international break. We've had plenty of goals from La Liga players. We've had postponed games. We've had coups in Guinea. It's been a very dramatic week, but thankfully everyone seems to be safe and sound.
Indeed, they do. Looking at the chat, we've got Ross. Hello, Ross. Ezekiel, Sean, Anna, Ashton. Great to have you all here with us today. Thank you for joining us. Ross is asking, is it true that La Liga is the hardest to predict? I don't know, Ross. I would say it's been one of the hardest to predict in the opening weeks of the season because there's been a lot of draws and stuff. Personally, I've found Serie A and Bundesliga perhaps easier to predict because I've just been going for the goals markets and there's been loads of high-scoring games. La Liga has been a bit difficult, hasn't it, Matt, these opening weeks of the season? There's been a lot of dodgy results and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think I only got 1 out of 4 last time, so apologies for that. But I was quite close with 3 of them, to be fair. There was kind of 1 goal out here and there. But no, I mean, the Elche game, for example, that 2-2 draw was just completely bizarre, and especially the circumstances of Villarreal's equaliser. I mean, that should have been a Villarreal win. 9 times out of 10, that ball just gets comfortably taken by Geronimo Rulli, and they come away with the 3 points. But dramatic. Obviously, there's been so much turnover at Barcelona. Real Madrid are missing a few. And obviously all their focus was trying to get a certain Frenchman in the door. But in the end, they got another one. And the promoted sides are generally doing OK, especially Mallorca. I mean, we've got 6 teams on 7 points at the top of the table. No one's got a 100% record after 3 games. So long may that continue because, we don't want just 1 or 2 teams challenging at the top. We want an open, competitive league all the way through. And I think we've got that.
Indeed, it's open, it's entertaining, it's been interesting so far, but it's always difficult in the opening weeks of the season. It's much easier after about 8 or 9 games when you've got an international break out the way, and then you start to see trends of how well each team plays at home, how the teams that struggle on the road, the teams that are involved in a lot of high-scoring games, teams that play out open and entertaining games, how the newly promoted clubs are shaping up over the course of the season. And you normally have about 20 weeks in the middle of the season where generally can rack up a bit of profit, and then it's probably best to leave it in the final weeks of the season when a lot of teams don't have a great deal of motivation. That's just my 2 Satoshis on the matter anyway. We have got 8 games to predict this weekend because 2 have been called off due to players not really making it back from South America in time. But 8 interesting fixtures, which we're going to break down in a minute. First, please can you notification bell, subscribe to the channel, please give us a like. Shows a bit of love for the Google and the YouTube algorithm, which we're really keen on here. Head on over to sportsbookreview.com after this. You can read articles by our pro handicappers on soccer, lots of other sports, NFL season starting this weekend, so lots of content on there. Okay, let's go. Levante versus Rayo Vallecano. Interesting game between a very unpredictable Levante side and newly promoted Rayo Vallecano, who have just made a big signing, Matt.
Yes, indeed. That was one of the stories of deadline day. I know there was quite a lot happening in those final few days and even on deadline day itself, which we'll touch on soon, I'm sure. But Radamel Falcao is back in La Liga. El Tigre, he had a phenomenal record for Atletico Madrid back in the day. And okay, yes, I know he's had injuries, and I know he's kind of very much in the autumn of his career now. But for a club like Rayo to be able to sign him, and if it works, he could keep them up on with his goals alone. And even if it doesn't, it's a relatively risk-free move. So I think it's very exciting for fans. I think their social media was flooded with likes, retweets, comments, all those kind of things. It just generates such a buzz, and he's just touched down today. He was playing with Colombia in the qualification in South America. He has been pictured at Rayo with the scarf, holding it up. So he's definitely there, and he could feature tomorrow. Absolutely. I wouldn't imagine him to play a massive part because of, as I say, that travel and the games he's been involved in. But he's certainly now in Madrid, ready to play.
How many for a defensive team, how many great strikers have Atletico Madrid had over the last sort of 15 years? Falcao, Torres, Sergio Aguero, Costa, Suarez, Diego Forlan. The list just goes on and on, doesn't it? They're always blessed with really efficient finishers up front and seem to move players on at the right time quite a lot of the time too. It's good to have him back. How do you think this game's going to pan out? Have you got any sort of leans on this?
Well, as you touched on, it is unpredictable. I mean, Levante had that incredible 3-3 draw with Real Madrid, but then they haven't been quite as free-flowing since then. And Rayo, they lost their first two games to decent sides. And again, I think as we said in the last show, they were kind of up against it really early on in that Sevilla game in the opener, with a man sent off, the goalkeeper, of course, very early doors. So that was kind of a hiding to nothing straight away. But then they came out of nowhere and beat Granada 4-0 last time out. Really emphatic performance. Oscar Trejo, the captain, was leading by example. And that's given a lot of Raístas a lot of hope ahead of this season. And I quite fancy both teams to score here. I wouldn't be too convinced with either defence. I know Levante have signed Mustafi online. I'm sure you remember him very well from Arsenal. World Cup winner, no less. But he's been given the number 13 jersey, which I'm sure many Arsenal fans might say is a bit ominous.
Yeah, I just think any team with Mustafi in it is looking ominous. Oh, I know Atletico Madrid have had some great strikers over the years, and Arsenal have had some woeful defenders, many of whom end up in La Liga. I know Gabriel's at Valencia these days, not as bad as he was at Arsenal. He was dreadful at Arsenal. And glad to see the back of Mustafi. We've got such legends as Rob Holding now, so it doesn't matter. Not missing him at all. I like both teams to score in this game as well. Like you say, team that a newly promoted side that just won 4-0 last weekend, coming up against the Levante team that can really turn it on when they want to. Could be an entertaining game. Okay, next up we have got Athletic Bilbao, or Athletic Club as they're sometimes known, coming up against Mallorca. Mallorca, fantastic, flying out of the blocks, joint top of the table, 7 points from 3 games. Wow, they're living in dreamland, aren't they, Matt?
Absolutely, they couldn't have dreamt of a better start. I mean, drawing with Betis and then getting 2 wins off the back of that and beating their old manager in the process, that just tasted so sweet for them. And to come into the international break with a pretty solid defensive record and 7 points on the board, I mean, that's almost a quarter towards safety, isn't it? So fantastic start from them. And they could be confident going into this game. I do think it could be tough away at San Mamés. Barca have already shown that it's not that easy to go there and play, especially with the fans back in. That's a massive factor for Marcelino this season. I think Mallorca, they've done some fantastic business in the transfer window. They've already got Take Kubo back from Real Madrid, and they brought in Kanjin Lee from Valencia, another prodigy, very highly rated. For him to move for free from Valencia was an absolute steal from Mallorca. And Fernandinho, on loan from Villarreal, he's already scored, and he was with the under-21s in the international break, and he scored a couple of goals as well. So he's in fine form going into this one.
Yeah, you can't argue with signing one of the best Japanese players and one of the best Korean players during the transfer window, can you? They'll bring a lot of industry and a lot of quality to that team. I had Mallorca draw no bet last weekend, and it paid off for me. I think -118 because they're just strong at home. I think they could stay up this season. I think they're building a good team there. But I just think they might struggle. They often struggled on the mainland on their last season in the top flight, and it's quite a long way to go up to the north of Spain, and it's a difficult place to visit as well. Athletic Bilbao still unbeaten as well this season, and just very stubborn at the back, lots of quality in attack. I'm going for Athletic Club to win this one, and I don't think it's going to be a particularly high-scoring game. So I've gone for Athletic Club to win and under 4.5 goals. What do you think about that, Matt? Have I got a chance there?
I think you have. Yeah, I think as you mentioned, Athletic at home this season is going to be a different proposition because the fans are back. You may remember a couple of seasons ago, this fixture featured the infamous one-step penalty from Aritz Aduriz. It was a fantastic, almost unbelievable to see it. Look it up on YouTube if you haven't seen it. He's got a penalty. He just takes one step and just sends it straight into the corner. Fantastic penalty. And just a note on Iñaki Williams. This will be his 199th consecutive La Liga appearance. He just doesn't miss a game. And he's only 3 away from the record now. So keep an eye on him to being in those lineups. He could be making headlines pretty soon. But again, yeah, he's going to be, again, the kind of focus for goals. He's already got one this season, but that was kind of a defensive error from Celta. Again, Marcelino himself has said that Iñaki isn't a pure 9. He isn't expected to get all the goals. But Athletic will need a lot of players to chip in. But then, as you say, with their strong defence, sometimes one goal is enough to win them games. So that could be the case here. And I think you're right with under 4.5 goals. I think that's a pretty shrewd shout.
Okay, thanks, Matt. And maybe we'll get Jorginho to watch that YouTube video. Might learn a thing. Espanyol, another newly promoted side, are coming up against the champions, Atletico Madrid. Interesting game. I mean, the odds on Atletico Madrid to win this one look very compelling. 1.95 I'm seeing here, minus 105. They draw a lot of games, don't they, on the road, Matt, is the issue sometimes with Atletico Madrid. I feel like I'm better off betting on them at home, but do you think they can pick up a win here against Espanyol?
Well, this is a tough one. I'm quite torn here. I haven't picked this for any of my selections for a couple of reasons. Firstly, Espanyol, we said the promoted sides have started well, and their first 2 games were 2 goalless draws, so fairly solid. Then they lost the next one to Mallorca, as we say, but they are the only side yet to score in La Liga. So that kind of would suggest Atletico should win this. But then having said that, Atletico have conceded 3 in the 3 games, and that is very unlike them. So I'm not quite as convinced with their ability to keep teams out as I was a couple of weeks ago. And that Villarreal game showed that on the counter, they can still be punished. And Espanyol have a really strong squad, especially in attacking areas. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Espanyol potentially score here as well. And it has been a bit of a bogey ground because the last time Atletico Madrid won here was actually 2017. So wow. It's not a place they go to very well. Obviously, up the road at Camp Nou is also a tricky ground for them, but Cornellà is also a pretty difficult place for them to visit. So I'm not going to hedge my bets here. I'm not going to be too committal on either way. Okay.
Yeah, I'm strongly leaning towards Atletico Madrid, but I'm not sure if I have the conviction to pull the trigger either. Been burned by a lot of times when a game that you expect them to win on the road ends up 0-0 or 1-1 or something like that. So, yeah, proceed with caution perhaps on that one. Okay, we have next up Osasuna versus Valencia. Junior's been betting on Valencia a lot. He just likes their manager and thinks he's a born winner. Very good start to the season for Valencia. Do you think they can keep it going, Matt? I mean, 7 points from 3 games is amazing, but surely the momentum's going to have to run out sooner or later for this team.
Possibly. They have had a fantastic start, as you rightly say, and Junior's not wrong. In Bordalas, they have a real very fiery strategist who knows how to get the job done. And a lot of their form has been off the back of Carlos Soler scoring goals. And he, of course, continued that with Spain over the international break, scored in his first 2 appearances. So, again, he was on Spanish radio last night and he was speaking about how everyone has just kind of bought into the Bordalas tactics straight away. And he can see that they've paid instant dividends. So there is a real good mood around Valencia now, which there hasn't been for quite some time. I do think this is a tough place to go, though. I know we say this quite a lot. Teams on the road, it is difficult. Valencia's away form is pretty dire as well. If you look at it, they've only won 2 of their last 31 La Liga matches on the road. And the last time they won back-to-back La Liga games was way back in February 2020, so before the pandemic. So the stats there would suggest this won't be an away win. And we saw Osasuna in the last game come back in added time to not only equalise but then go and beat Cádiz. So they're coming off some pretty confident form there too. And El Sadar, pretty similar to Athletic Club, when the fans are in, that can be a really hostile kind of place to go and a very kind of feverish atmosphere. So if Valencia aren't at it, they could struggle here.
Yeah, and there's just been so many draws already in the opening weeks of the season that if you're not 100% sure on an away team, perhaps it is just best to pass it, because a lot of potential coupon busters out there. Shout out to Sean, who's one of his favourite bets is Espanyol Atletico Madrid draw half time at even money. I like that. Yeah, I think it could be quite a cagey opening to that game. Next up, we have Cádiz versus Real Sociedad. Cádiz are in their second season in the top flight, and they did reasonably well last year to beat the drop. Not a bad start to the new campaign. 2 points from 3 games, but a little bit underwhelming. Real Sociedad, 2 wins and a defeat. I think they're the better team here. I think they go to Cádiz and win. What do you think, Matt?
I agree with you there, absolutely. I think this is probably one of the ones that I am kind of happy to call for the away side. It paid off for me last week, 2 weeks ago, and I think it could well do here again. I think Cádiz, they'll be bitterly disappointed not to have got at least a point in their last fixture. They were 2-1 up, and they just struggled to defend in the last kind of knockings of the game, and not only conceded the penalty, but then conceded from a corner. So that's not ideal. And when you have the likes of Alexander Isak and then possibly Sorloth coming off from the bench, that's a lot of aerial power for Real Sociedad. So if they don't kind of open the lock with the kind of magical passes of likes of David Silva or Mikel Merino or Mikel Oyarzabal, who had a break, remember, he wasn't in the Spain squad. He was one that had some rest, so he'll be fresh as a daisy. I fancy Real Sociedad here.
He deserves it, doesn't he? He deserves a rest, Oyarzabal. He was at the Euros, then he was at the Olympics. Come on, give the guy a break. He needs it.
Absolutely.
His team, this striker force is just phenomenal. Isak, David Silva, Mikel Oyarzabal. It's just terrific. If they're all playing, Porto can come into the team. If they're all on song and they stay injury-free, watch out, Barcelona. I think Real Sociedad could challenge for a top 4 place if they keep things reasonably tight at the back and don't suffer too many injuries to key players, which kind of was their downfall slightly last season. But I think they go to Cádiz and get the job done. Next up, Real Madrid versus Celta Vigo. We all know what to expect from Real Madrid under Carlo Ancelotti. Very entertaining. Decent start to the season, but not with a 100% record, sadly. What are we going to get from Celta Vigo in this game, Matt? Or just Celta, as most people call them?
Yeah, they're a tricky one to predict at the best of times, and especially off the back of an international break. They'll have had a couple of weeks on the training ground to kind of perfect their game plan for this game. Not too many away on international duty either, so that plays into their hands. But then, having said that, this is Real Madrid's first game back at Santiago Bernabeu in over a year, so this is a massive night for them. It's their first home game of the season as well. So when you think about 7 points out of 9, they're all away from home, so that's pretty strong return, I'd say. Eduardo Camavinga is probably going to feature in the squad. Kroos and Modric look like they're still going to be out, as well as Fede Valverde. He was with Uruguay in South America, so he might not be able to play certainly from the start. So yeah, there's every chance Camavinga could come straight into the team, which will be very exciting for Madridistas. I like Real Madrid for a home win here. I think they tend to score against Celta. They don't always win, but they tend to score quite a lot of goals against Celta. The last 14 La Liga matches, they've scored 2 or more goals in each of those, winning 12 and drawing 2. So I think Ancelotti will have the answers here. And I think Benzema, he still looked pretty good for France. Didn't score this time, but he looked pretty good linking up. So I think, again, it will. And the big bonus for Real Madrid as well, Eden Hazard looks like he's coming back to his best. So for them, that could be really pivotal.
Yeah, Valverde is some player, isn't he? I think he's everything that we hoped Lucas Torreira would be, but obviously isn't. He's a real all-action midfielder, and they've had just the best midfield in the world for the last maybe 5 years. But it is time to rebuild, and I like what they're doing with Camavinga coming in. Valverde's a very good player. well, if they sign Mbappe next summer, they'll be back in business. And like you say, 7 points on the road, getting back into the Bernabeu, it's no wonder they're now the outright favourites to win La Liga. Do you think they could pip Atletico to the title?
I would still have Atleti as favourites, just purely because with Griezmann returning, that's just such a massive. And you can already see he's already cut his hair, a bit like me, but he's cut his hair. The fans are delighted with that. It was trending on Spanish Twitter, and yeah, he's just back where it just feels right, doesn't it? He looks. The numbers would say he had a pretty decent time at Barca, and I'm a big Antoine Griezmann fan, and I'd always kind of stick up for him. And I think it didn't work out mainly because he was trying to kind of play in the Messi role, and everyone thought, okay, well, he's going to be the leader of the attack without Messi, and then Memphis comes in and already looks like the leader. So you can understand from both points of view. Griezmann wants to go back to where he's loved. Well, the fans obviously didn't like the way he left, but if he comes in and hits the ground running, I'm sure that will kind of patch things up. And then you look at from Barca's point of view, it's a massive kind of financial salvation, really, which has been their goal of the summer, really, because even with Griezmann leaving, Laporta said they wouldn't have been able to keep Messi even with Griezmann off. So that just shows you how much of a problem situation they were in.
Yeah, I'm not much of a Griezmann fan, but that's mainly because he scored against Arsenal and did his fortnight celebration. But to be fair, he was probably justified because he was supposed to join Arsenal and Wenger really screwed him around, and he was delighted to embarrass Wenger and get a big win. But yeah, I don't know. Is he ever going to win the title? It's got to be this year. It's got to be this year for me, Griezmann. Whereas he was in that Atletico team for so long, he leaves. They finally win the title. He goes back. Imagine if they don't win it now.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, he joined Atletico in 2014 when they were defending champions. He joined Barcelona in 2019 when they were defending champions. And now he joins Atleti in 2021 when they're defending champions. But he's never won La Liga himself. So
he's good at turning defending champions into also-rans.
Yeah, he's almost like a poison chalice in that sense. But no, I think their attacking depth is just so good now. I mean, you have Luis Suarez. Okay, I'm not sure he'll be able to replicate his form from last year. But again, he didn't go to the qualifiers. He was injured in the Villarreal game, so he will be kind of back from injury and potentially available here. They brought in Mateus Cunha, Olympic winner with Brazil. They've got Angel Correa, who's currently joint top scorer in the league already. He's hit the ground running. And you throw Griezmann into all of that, and you've got João Felix with Rodrigo de Paul, Koke in midfield. It's a really strong squad, probably the strongest squad in the league. So for that reason, I would still have them as title favourites.
Yeah, I did a Champions League article actually after the draw was made, and I put Atletico as my dark horse team because, like you say, great squad depth, really good at grinding out results against big teams. Yeah, I do agree that they're still the team to beat, but I think it's going to be a fascinating battle with them and Real Madrid for the title. Okay, we'll move on to the other Madrid team, well, slightly south of Madrid, Getafe against Elche. What do we make of Getafe? Just what's happened? I mean, it's just been a downward spiral for the last couple of years. They're languishing in the relegation zone with 0 points, already trailing the mighty Elche by 2 points. Can we see light at the end of the tunnel for them, or is it going to be a long old season, Matt?
I can see some light, to be honest. I think they have been bold this summer. It is a bit of a risk in terms of changing the way they play so much. Again, losing Bordalas, it kind of forces you to change because there's no one quite like Bordalas in the game. So to bring back Michel, I think he's a very kind of cool, calm figure. He's likes to play football in the right way. Their summer business has been pretty decent too, although it does mean that they will have to change the style of play and pretty quickly. But having said that, you say 0 points. Of course, that is the bare fact. But in at least 2 of the 3 games, they have competed very well. Against Sevilla, they were so close to a draw and probably deserved that draw. It was just a last-minute Lamela goal that beat them. And then last game at Camp Nou, they were pretty good value for the 2-1. I mean, I know I tipped Barcelona to win -1 there, but Getafe surprised me in how kind of bold they were. And they caused Barca a lot of problems in that game. And I think if they can continue that kind of performance level, they could have enough to beat Elche here. But yeah, likewise, Elche, a bit under the radar with the Falcao thing, but they brought back Javier Pastore, which is another kind of really exciting, eclectic player to bring back to the league. And yeah, if he can stay injury free, they've got a really, really exciting squad there.
Yeah, no, it's nice to see some of these big players returning to Spanish football. I'd like to see a stronger overall level of quality there, because there's kind of been a bit of talk, hasn't there, about La Liga perhaps not being one of the top 2 leagues in the world anymore. A lot of love for Serie A nowadays. Premier League's obviously going from strength to strength from a financial position, but I still think we're going to see a lot of quality in Spanish football this season and a lot of exciting games. I have a soft spot for Getafe because a couple of seasons ago I just made a load of money by betting on them securing low-scoring victories every week. And I want them to get back to that, but I don't think it's ever going to happen. Like you say, they're trying to play a more expansive brand of football now, and good luck to them, but it's definitely a pass from me. Final game of our 8 is Granada versus Real Betis. 2, slightly more entertaining teams, I would say. I'm kind of looking forward to this game. Granada versus Real Betis, Matt. What do you make of it?
This is a tough one. I think Granada have had a real kind of struggle, a pretty tough start to the season. Decent couple of games, but then they got hammered by Rayo, and I think that will put confidence on the floor. And when you're, again, a bit like Getafe, a massive change of turnover of style, players, coach. Diego Martinez was one of the best coaches in Spain last season, and he's still free, by the way. Someone who sacks a manager, he'll be pretty high at the top of any list of replacements. Well, Norwich this week, who knows? Granada, they lost basically the spine of their team. They lost the goalkeeper, centre back, midfielder Iñigo Herrera, and Roberto Soldado up front. So their signings have been encouraging. I like Monchu. Carlos Bacca will kind of replace Soldado in the kind of veteran striker sense, and they've just signed a goalkeeper as well who looks young and promising for the future. So they've been pretty savvy in the way they've gone about it. They haven't gone mad and kind of panicked, but I think it could be a tough grind this season for Granada. The only thing I will say in this game, Betis will definitely have at least half an eye on the Europa League. And of course, this being a Monday night game, that's only 3 days before their game against Celtic. And that's a pretty special game for these 2 clubs. There's a lot of links there, not least in the colours of the shirts. So Betis might have their eye off the ball on this one, and that could be a dangerous game at Nuevo Las Carmenes.
Interesting. Yeah, I think if Real Betis show up, they can take Celtic apart in that game. But we'll be covering the Europa League on Monday for all you viewers. Okay, thank you, Matt. Esteban, could we please have the picks and we'll read them out? Okay, I'm going for Villarreal to win and under 4.5 goals at -120. I've got Athletic Club and under 4. I'm just going for the same bet. Just going back to the well. Athletic Club and under 4.5 goals at -110, and Real Sociedad and under 4.5 goals at -110. My thoughts being that there's just been a lot of low-scoring games so far in La Liga, and I fancy those 3 teams to win. But Villarreal, we can take that one off because they're not playing anymore. Okay, Matt, what are you going for? You read them out, please.
Yeah, I've gone for Real Madrid. As I say, I think it's going to be a pretty special night to be back at the Bernabeu remodeled stadium. It's looking pretty good from the photos I've seen. Fans will be back in the stadium up to 20,000, I'm told. And again, excitement around Camavinga, excitement around seeing their team again. And again, it's Carlo's first game back home basically since he's returned. So I fancy them to beat Celta in this game. Levante, Rayo Vallecano, I've gone for both teams to score there. As we said earlier, I think both defences could be potentially shaky in that game, and I think both teams will go for the win. So I think we could see some goals there. And Real Sociedad, I've gone for them on double chance there. I think they're pretty good for the win on this one. But and being the away side, you get a bit more value with that. So those are my picks there this week.
Sounds good. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, if you want a bit more value on Real Sociedad, go for them to win outright and maybe chuck in a goal scoring market or something like that to get it a little bit closer to even money, guys. Okay, thank you very much for joining me today, Matt. We'll look forward to having you back next time. Hopefully, Junior will be back with us too. Thanks everyone for watching and for all your comments on the chat. If you could give us a thumbs up, we would just really appreciate it for a long-suffering Arsenal fan and a much happier Liverpool fan. We're looking forward to these games at the weekend. Head on over to sportsbookreview.com and you will find a lot more insight and picks and analysis on football, basketball, baseball, all sorts of sports. And yeah, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Matt. We will see you soon.